everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting yet another reading vlog, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a weekend reading vlog. I don't have too many reading plans for this video, but I definitely do have some books that I want to make progress in, finish, that kind of stuff. So I thought it would be fun to film a little vlog this weekend. So it's currently Thursday morning. I'm really hoping I can finish both, well, not finish, but like make the progress that I want to in both of these books by the end of the weekend. That is my current goal. I also really want to prioritize like some physical reading for my weekend because I feel like I've been listening to a ton of audiobooks recently, which I really love, but I'm always trying to make a conscious effort to like sit down, slow down, and do more physical reading in my life. So let me tell you about the books that I'm hoping to make progress in this weekend, and then we'll get into it. So the first book that I really need to prioritize reading first is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clare. I read some of this in my last vlog, was telling you guys how much I loved it, and then I literally have not made any progress since. And the live show that I have, which is going to be covering spoilers up through volume 1 of this book, is on Sunday. So I really need to make it up to the second volume of this book so I can participate and host my own live show. So I'm currently on page 94 and volume 2 is on page 265. So very doable. I'm really excited to jump back into this and start prioritizing it a little bit more, and I'm excited to talk about it some more with you guys as well, because I know a lot of you guys like this book, but I know a lot of you guys also don't like this book. I feel like on my last video I got very mixed reactions in the comments in terms of like people liking and not liking this book. So if you didn't like it, I'm so sorry, but if you did like it, so far me too. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit, and I am excited. So I'm going to be like starting with this. But then the other book that I'd really like to make it through in its entirety this weekend is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. I'm currently doing a month-long Twilight themed readathon on my Patreon. It's like a board game style readathon, so I need to like read the first book to progress and choose the next one. And this was the first book that I picked for that, and I'd really like to finish this so I can continue playing my own board game. So definitely planning on reading Hungerstone this weekend as well. It's not like too long, and then it's like 300 or so pages, which again, very doable. I've read, I think like the first 4 pages of this book maybe, and kind of maybe I was liking it. I don't know, but I'm gonna like restart it and I'll get back into it. So I'm gonna be reading this, and then the audiobook that I'm currently listening to, hang on, I wanna make sure I get the author's name too. I started listening to this morning, and it's called Over My Dead Body, Unearthing the Hidden History of America's Cemeteries by Greg Melville. I was filming my mid-year flip through of my reading journal a couple weeks ago. And I noticed that one of my goals for the year was to read 3 nonfiction books. And up until a couple of days ago, I hadn't read a single one. So I'm deciding to fix that. I've actually already read one. I read Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs by Caitlin Doughty, I believe, which was another like death themed nonfiction, a bit morbid, but very fascinating. And I feel like that's been, you know, what I've been gravitating towards recently, just because I want to start reading kind of spookier things. I'm like, what's spookier than like literally dying? I don't know. I really like that one. The concept is basically like young kids asking questions about what happens to people when they die. So pretty easy to grasp. I liked Caitlin Doughty's like way of delivering the information. I also listened to the audiobook for that one, and she narrates it herself, which I really liked. So I decided I should read another death themed nonfiction. So I decided to go with this one about cemeteries because it popped up on like a Reddit thread that I was reading through, and I'm only like an hour into it, but I'm liking it, and I'll probably just continue to listen to it whenever I need an audiobook throughout the weekend. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it, but we'll see. So those are my couple of reading plans for the weekend. Again, like good fall adjacent reading, I would say. Again, like we're not getting into fall yet, but this is like, you know, when I start kind of transitioning to my more like spooky atmospheric reads for the fall, and I feel like these are definitely like good gateway books, you know? So I'm very excited to share all of my thoughts on these books with you guys over the weekend. Aside from reading, I don't really have too many other plans. I'll probably do some journaling. I might try to do some spreads in my hobonichi. I just, it's so hard to like get back to it now that I haven't really done anything in it for 4 months, but I want to try. So we'll see if I can actually do that. But aside from that, it's just gonna be a really chill weekend full of reading. So I hope you guys are excited. I think the first thing that I'm gonna do today though is actually not some reading. I have a bunch of books behind me, as you can see, that need to go back on my shelves. I recently filmed my physical TBR update video and I pulled like a bunch of books off of my bookshelves. So they need to be put back. And I also got some books recently, which I really want to show you guys because I got these in the mail yesterday and I'm so excited about them. I got volumes 1 and 2 of the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, but like the traditionally published editions of them. I ordered these off of Blackwell's. I don't know if they're publishing these in the US or not. I think these are maybe just being published in the UK. But as much as I love the cover art that is on the indie published versions of these, I really like the trad published ones too. And I love these little like illustrations of Emma and like Tiberius up here. They're so cute. And these just recently got published, I think. I'm pretty sure they came out like mid-July maybe. And the rest of the series is coming out in like, you know, coordinating editions, obviously. I think over the next like 6 or 7 months or so. And I will of course be buying all of them because I really liked the series, but I never really wanted to buy the indie published ones. But these I really love. And they have, get this, French flaps. Look at this, guys. I'm a French flap enthusiast. I love a French flap. So I need to find a spot on my shelf for these. I want to keep them together, obviously, because eventually I will have all of them. So I need to find like a fun, colorful shelf to put them on. So a little bit of bookshelf maintenance this afternoon, and then I'll probably, no, scratch that. And then I need to do some reading of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So those are kind of my plans for today. What I'm doing like tomorrow and the other days, I don't know, but we'll just see. So I really hope you guys enjoy the vlog. I hope you're excited, and let's get into some bookshelf arranging. It's not really rearranging, but arranging. right, so it is now Saturday. I have not been making as much progress with my reading so far this weekend as I wanted to, but I do have some good reading updates. I have accomplished some things. So let me talk to you about those, because that's kind of all I have to talk about. Haven't really been doing much of anything else, but that's okay. What I've truly been doing is playing a bunch of random games on my Switch again, instead of reading, like I said I wanted to. So, you know, I've been playing like some Mario Galaxy, I've been playing some Animal Crossing, I've been playing some Tiny Bookshop. I've kind of just been like switching between a bunch of games that I like to play. So I've been having a good time doing that. But I do still have reading updates. Do not fret. I have been doing some reading. First of all, let's talk about the book that I've made the most progress in, which is obviously Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And it's really, really great that I've made a lot of progress in this book because my live show for the first volume of this book is today, in like 50 minutes. I have indeed made it up to volume 2. I'm on page 265 now. And honestly, I feel like I zoomed through these 160 pages or so that I had to read throughout the weekend. I feel like when I think about picking this book up, it feels much more daunting than it actually is once I've like picked the book up and have gotten into it a little bit more. I feel like it's always the size of the book that's like deterring me and making me feel like it's gonna take forever to read these pages. But once I get into it, I really do feel like I'm just flying through it because I'm really, really enjoying it still. Spoiler, still really, really loving it. In the last 160 pages, I wouldn't say like a ton has happened, honestly, which I'm not that mad about because I do enjoy just kind of like existing in this world. But over the last 160 pages, we've been seeing a little bit more of how magic is being pulled into the war. If you guys don't know, this book is kind of set during the Napoleonic Wars in like the early 1800s. And one of Mr. Norrell's goals, Mr. Norrell being like the main magician that we're dealing with, what we have been dealing with up until this point, he feels like his magic could be a really great asset to the British Navy in, you know, the war against France. And we've been seeing a couple of examples of that. I feel like you're getting a better grasp of the kind of magic that Mr. Norrell can do, because the first like bit of this book is kind of like, yeah, he can do it, but like you don't really get a whole lot of it in the first 100 pages. But now that we're moving like further into the book, there are a lot more displays of magic in the book, which I'm really, really loving. I wouldn't describe this book as being whimsical necessarily, because that's not really the vibe. It's more of like, you know, like a gas lamp, London, foggy, dreary. We're dealing with the aristocracy a lot, like that kind of vibe. But I think the magic definitely has like a whimsicality to it, which I think is really, really fun. And a couple of the displays of magic that we've seen so far, I've really, really enjoyed. I just think it's really cool. I feel like there's not really, from what I can tell, much of like a magic system necessarily to this, which I always really like. Kind of like I guess a soft magic system where kind of just anything can happen, which is kind of what this feels like so far. It's kind of just like Mr. Norrell reads a bunch of like magic books, and from there you can kind of just do whatever. So far you can definitely see like some drawbacks and limits that there can be to the magic, but like for the most part, I think we're just doing whatever. And I love that. Something else I'm still really loving is Susanna Clarke's writing. I feel like the way that she is setting like the vibe, the atmosphere of just like every scene we're in is exquisite, honestly. The amount of times that we have described a gloomy, rainy, foggy London evening so many times, and I'm eating it up every time, I have to say. I love the dreary, gas lamp, foggy, whatever vibe that you tend to get with a lot of historical books that are set in London during the 1800s. And this one is not disappointing me in the slightest. I love the atmosphere. It just feels so cozy, even though the book itself isn't necessarily a cozy read. Well, I feel like to an extent it is, because at this point in time, nothing major is happening. Like there haven't been any major plot beats going on so far. We really are just like following, you know, Mr. Norrell, some other kind of like key characters as well, and they're kind of just like going around talking to a bunch of people at this point in time. So it's definitely a slower paced read, a little bit quieter of a read, which I'm really, really loving, kind of just like sitting with it and enjoying the slow pace so far. I'm interested to see if that's gonna change going into the second volume, because we have introduced a new character who is a little bit more exciting, I feel, than Mr. Norrell. Mr. Norrell is by design like a very, you know, like kind of boring old man, but with who we have been introduced to, I feel like he's gonna jazz things up a little bit. That's just my assumption, but I feel like that's probably where this is going, and I'm really excited to just see, like, you know, some new character interactions, some hopefully new like magic things going on. So for all of that, I'm really excited to jump into volume 2. I don't know if I'm gonna read any more of this book this weekend. I still have yet to start Hungerstone, which I definitely really want to do later today. So yeah, there is how Jonathan Strange Mr. Norrell is going. Super well, obviously. And then I have also made some progress, not in Hungerstone, but I have made some progress in the audiobook that I was listening to, which is Over My Dead Body. I'm currently 20% of the way through this one, and I might try to finish this weekend as well. I have like some cleaning and stuff I need to do tomorrow, so I might like listen to my audiobook, clean, whatever. Honestly, I kind of like cleaning my apartment because it gives me an opportunity to just like throw on an audiobook and be lost to the world for a couple of hours. So I might do that tomorrow, not sure. But as for how the book is going so far, I'm enjoying it. I feel like it's definitely approaching this topic, like this topic of all of America's cemeteries and whatnot, in a really interesting way. This book has a lot more like general history in it than I was expecting, because I was mainly expecting this book to just talk about the cemeteries, the history of the cemetery itself. And while it is doing that, I feel like this book is more so focusing on what history, what events were going on at the time when these cemeteries were like maybe first being used, first being constructed, and how those events played into who was buried there, how their remains were treated, what are the lasting impacts of those events on these cemeteries now. And it brings up a lot of really important points specifically pertaining to like how America has treated the remains of, you know, like the indigenous people that are buried here, and how people from different races and religions and different walks of life, how their remains have been treated by America, like just throughout the years in general, even up until very recently. And I just feel like it's a super interesting and important angle to approach this kind of nonfiction from. And it's just a really informative read, which I'm definitely liking so far. So I want to listen to some more of this throughout the weekend as well. I'd like to make a lot of progress in it. So those are the only reading updates that I have for you guys. I have my live show very soon, which I'm very excited about, so I'm gonna hop on that in a minute. But after that, I think I might jump into Hungerstone. I think I definitely want to make some progress in Hungerstone like today and tomorrow. I do also have reading sprints with my patrons tomorrow, so I can definitely focus a lot of my time during those on reading Hungerstone. Anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go, and I will see you tomorrow, probably, hopefully with some reading updates. I'm really hoping I've made a lot of progress in Hungerstone. Fingers crossed. We'll see. So it is officially not the weekend anymore. I feel like every time in the last like 6 months or so that I've tried to film a weekend reading vlog, it always ends up spilling into the next week by a lot. And clearly nothing has changed. I just feel like overall this year I've been in a reading slump. I don't know, like obviously I'm still reading, I'm still finding books that I really like, but I feel like I'm not reading as much as I used to, which is fine. Like habits change, I get that, but I need to really just stop saying I'm gonna film weekend reading vlogs. Anyway, as I said, it's Wednesday now. I have a reading update, well, like a couple of reading updates, and then I also have a library haul because I'm really trying not to buy as many books, so I've been borrowing a lot from the library, so I picked up some holds, and I also just found some books in the stacks that I've been wanting to read. Some of these I'm hoping to read, well actually all of these I'm hoping to read very soon, obviously. They're from the library, that's kind of the point. But I wanted to show you guys what I picked up in case you want to see me read any of these quicker than the others. So, let me go through them really quickly. First of all, I have The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. I specifically picked this up because one of my lovely patrons, Cass, has been promoting this book like she wrote it herself. Let me tell you, she loves this book. She's recommending it to like everybody possible. And she has recommended it to me just so many times at this point. So I finally put a hold on it at the library and I'm very interested to see what I think of this one. It's considered a transfixing fever dream of medieval horror, which I feel like could be, I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not, but I'm interested to try it out and see what I think. Especially since I read The Everlasting in my last vlog and I really liked the medieval vibe and I kind of want some more medieval books in my life. So we have The Starving Saints. Then I picked up one that I think is gonna be really fun, which is So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I don't know if I've read a Rachel Harrison book before, but I feel like I've always been very interested in her books. She writes a lot of horror books. And this one sounded like a good option. I've been wanting some more vampire books in my life, so I decided to grab this one. This next one I'm planning on reading in my next vlog, which I'm not gonna tell you what the theme for my next vlog is, but I do have a theme for my next vlog, which you can probably guess what it is when I show this to you, but whatever. I picked up Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is a cozy mystery kind of book following this old woman who I'm gonna assume has some unsolicited advice for murderers. I don't really know what else it's about. I wish I could tell you what the tagline of the book is, but my library decided to put their sticker over like the little top blurb, so we'll never know. We'll never know until I read this next week, of course. Then I picked up a couple of, I think both of these are YA, more like spooky YA kind of books, which I don't read like a ton of YA anymore, but I really love like spooky mystery YA still. I feel like those are always still a good time. So I first picked up The Glittering Edge by Alyssa Valere. This one I specifically saw Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction talking about when I was on Instagram the other day for like 3 seconds, and I was intrigued. The blurb on this one says, there are countless rumors about the DeLucas, about what goes on behind the walls of their creepy, disintegrating old house. Magic, children whisper. Evil, old ladies say. And they're both right. This just sounds like a really fun, kind of like September read specifically. I don't know why it's giving me September vibes, but that's what I'm picking up from it. So I'd like to read this one in September. And then the final book I picked up is The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd Jones. I think I saw this one on Pinterest, maybe. I get like a lot of really random book recs on my Pinterest feed for some reason. I say for some reason, like the feed isn't curated to stuff that I specifically click on. Like how could these possibly be here? But the vibe that this one fell under was like spooky coastal horror-ish, I think was what they were going for. And I've seen this one around a bunch over the last like however many years, so I decided to pick it up. Am I gonna read it? Hopefully. It sounds pretty good and like a good late summer, early fall read. So if you guys specifically like any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts on them and whether or not you think I should read them soon. Truly the only one that I have like immediate plans for is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice. As I said, I'm reading this one literally in my next video. But for the rest of these, I want to read them soon, but I want to know which ones I should prioritize. So you guys let me know. Please let me know. But moving on from my library haul, which has taken up way too much time, I'm so sorry. But support your local libraries, of course. Let me give you guys a reading update though, because I have finally started Hungerstone and I have made quite a bit of progress in it, which I'm very happy about. I made it up to part 2, which is pretty far into the book. I'm on page 197, so I'm about like 2/3 of the way through the book. And, you know, I'm liking this one. I wouldn't say I'm absolutely loving it, but I'm enjoying my time with it. This book is set in the late 1800s, I believe, and we're following our main character, Lenore, who's been married to her husband, Henry, for about 10 years, I think. She has yet to produce him an heir, so she's kind of feeling like a little bit inadequate. She kind of feels like she's not doing what she's supposed to in their marriage. Despite the fact that he is literally not taking these steps to produce a child, she still feels like this is all on her, which I'm like, first of all, we need to unpack that, girl. Let's talk about it. But in this book, they are moving from their like London estate to this other estate they have that's kind of like pretty isolated on the desolate moors of somewhere in England, I don't know where. But this new place that they're moving into, I love, because it is very much like a spooky, isolated, crumbling, decrepit mansion in the middle of absolutely nowhere, which, hello Daisy. I love the vibes of that. Duh, I love the vibes of that. And on their way to this place, they find this overturned, oh, what are they called? Carriage, that's the word. And there's this woman in there, and her name is Carmilla. If you guys haven't picked up on it, it's a Carmilla retelling, which I read Carmilla a couple of years ago, and I kind of liked it. I'd like to honestly give it a reread after I read this. I feel like that could be kind of interesting because it's been a minute. But, you know, there's this woman whose name is Carmilla. She has been in this accident, so they have to take her with them to their new place, and she's kind of just like there. She's allegedly not well enough to travel. She's not getting any better, despite the fact that, you know, she's been there for a really long time and she seems to be in pretty good spirits. However, every single time the doctor comes, he's like, no, she's gonna have to stay here for a while. And obviously Lenore and Henry, they start to get like more and more irritated with her presence. However, Lenore is also like, you know, like a little bit interested. She's a little bit drawn to Carmilla and drawn to what Carmilla could represent for her. Obviously, you know, she's like a housewife basically in the late 1800s. There's a lot of suppressed feelings, a lot of suppressed wants, a lot of suppressed desires that she has. And I feel like, do you mind? And obviously Carmilla is like these wants and desires and fears really personified for her. So, you know, there's like a lot of tension between them, a lot of sexual tension between them. Carmilla's kind of egging her on all the time, being like, this isn't what you want, what are you doing, why are you listening to your husband like that, all this stuff. And Lenore, as the book goes on, she starts to like buy into that like more and more that we find out about their marriage, the more you're like, yeah, you should dump your loser ass husband, honestly. But that's obviously easier said than done when you are a woman with no means of supporting yourself independently in the 1800s, so just sad times, honestly. And reading books like this really does make you so sad for the women who used to go through this kind of thing a lot and the women that are still going through this kind of thing even now. So you really just want Lenore to so badly take charge of her own life and have this autonomy that she's never been given before, especially because she comes from a very rigid upbringing and she has a lot of trauma in her past, and it's all just like culminating in this life that's not exactly what she envisioned for herself. So I definitely wouldn't say I'm 100% loving it, but I'm definitely really liking it. I like the plot, I like the writing, I like the atmosphere the most. Honestly, the atmosphere is like my favorite part of this book because it's, you know, crumbling decrepit mansion on the moors. What more could you possibly want, honestly? I always love books with that kind of setting. But what I really want from the second half of this book is like a little bit more like vampiness, you know? The first part of this book, it's been very subtle, like it's been hinted at, like you understand what's going on. But I want a little bit more from this vampire concept that I feel like I've been promised. Although I feel like it's kind of the same way with Carmilla, like it's not overtly like vampire. It has a little bit of a subtler touch with all the vampire elements, but like I just want a little bit more. Like just a little bit more. So I'm hoping that's what the second half of this book is leading to, but we'll see. But so far I've been liking it, and I'm definitely planning on finishing this up today. I only have like 100 pages left, so that seems very doable. But that's kind of all I have for you guys in the way of reading updates. I've read a little bit more of my nonfiction, but probably like not enough to really give you much of an update on it because it's just more of the same. It's a very like episodic book over my dead body. It's kind of just like, you know, going around to different cemeteries and giving you a bunch of history about the area that it's in, which has been interesting, but like I don't really have anything else to say about it so far. So yeah, those are kind of all my reading updates that I have. I'm going to buckle down and finish my book today, and I'm very excited about it. So I will see you guys maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, with my final update. right, so it is the next day and I'm back with a final reading update for you guys. Finally. My weekend reading vlog turned just normal week reading vlog is officially at its conclusion because I finished the one book that I said I wanted to, which was Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. I wish I would have generally enjoyed the ending of this book a little bit more, considering it's the only one that I finished this week, but it was still okay. Let's talk about it a little bit. So this book is very much like a good for her, feminine rage sort of story where you see our main character Lenore finally taking back some agency in her own life and getting back at the people that have been oppressing her for, you know, like honestly all of her life, let's be real. And I liked that. Obviously it does get like a little bit more unhinged as, you know, like the end of the book is kind of coming up, which I enjoyed. But considering this book is marketed as a retelling of Carmilla, I just feel like there wasn't like enough vampire stuff going on. And I understand that like the point of this book ended up not really being about the vampires, and it is about like Lenore and her journey and finally getting to just do whatever she wants and be free in life. But I feel like to call yourself a Carmilla retelling and then like not really do a whole lot with it, I was like, what was the point really? I feel like we have like, you know, the concept of feminine rage and the concept of vampires, and obviously those can go really well together, but I feel like we didn't really dive into either of those concepts in a satisfying way. So it's kind of just like surface level on both, and like we gotta do at least one. Like I want at least one to do something for me, you know, and I just feel like neither of them really did. So while I enjoyed like generally what this book was trying to do, I just feel like it didn't do it enough, you know? It definitely has a subtler touch with these topics, and honestly, like, it kind of felt too subtle. Maybe that was the point, maybe that's what this book was going for, but I just didn't really find it to be quite as satisfying as I wanted it to be. There were a lot of elements of this book that I really liked. As I said, I liked the writing, I liked the setting. As I said, the like the mansion or the place that they're going to stay is like crumbling, decrepit, you know, probably a metaphor for, I don't know, Lenore's life or something. I also found it interesting. There was a little bit of commentary about like workers' rights around this time and like steel mills and factories and stuff like that. There were a couple of plot lines that like utilized that and showed the injustice and the greed of the people that were running these mills and factories, which, you know, I liked that too. So while I didn't necessarily dislike this book, I wouldn't say it was, you know, like my favorite thing. Like it was fine, which is probably why it took me a bit longer than I thought it initially would to read the whole thing, because I was kind of just like, oh, it's kind of interesting, but do I really want to sit down and read this? I don't know. So I just kept like putting it off. So it is what it is. It was okay. But aside from the lack of book finishing, I did accomplish something big this weekend because I finally went back in my hobonichi and updated some of my, or not even updated, just did some of my weekly spreads. I don't even know when the last time I filled out my hobonichi was. It was probably sometime in April, which really tracks because April is when everything kind of turned to crap, honestly, in my life. Things are better now. Things are much, much better now. But, you know, April through like June, terrible, terrible time. Oh my gosh. So I did not want to document any of those weeks in my hobonichi because they were bad weeks and I didn't want to think about them. But recently I've been having some pretty good weeks. So I decided to finally go back in my hobonichi and I backfilled in like 3 weeks, I think. And I'm hoping that from here on out, I can like start doing it weekly again and I cannot fall behind like I did again. So I'm glad that I finally got back to it. But anyway, let me give you guys a quick like final reading recap for the week. And then that will be it. Of course, Daisy wants to come and say hello as well before I end the video. Come here. Here she is. Oh, say hello. But yeah, reading recap, let's go. All right, so first of all, I finished Hungerstone. We just talked about it. It was fine. Then I read up to volume 2 of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I still haven't read any more of this. Hopefully I can do some of that next week. But I think I read like 160 or so pages of Jonathan Strange, and obviously I'm really, really loving this one. So be prepared to see this in like many of my vlogs coming up because we're kind of just like slowly reading this over the next month and a half. Yeah, we'll finish in a month and a half. So that's really fun. And then I have listened to a little bit more of my audiobook as well. I am 72% into Over My Dead Body. I think I have like a couple hours left of the audiobook, so I'll probably finish it up soon-ish. I'm liking it. There's a lot of important important information in this book for sure, but I don't know if I absolutely love the author's writing style. There are a lot of like personal anecdotes in this, and while like I want some personal anecdotes for a book of this nature, because like he's been to all of these cemeteries, at least I think he has, but like he's interjecting a lot of, you know, his own experiences into this, which I like, but I feel like, you know, sometimes it's too much. Sometimes he's like sharing too much. So yeah, that's all the reading that I accomplished this week. I guess I did, you know, do what I set out to do, so that's good. But I'm hoping next week I can get into some good reading because I'm super excited about my reading plans for my next vlog. So stay tuned for that. But aside from that, I'm gonna let you guys go. That is the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me for the weekend turned week. I'd love to know what you guys have been reading recently. Have you read any of the books that I read in this vlog? Obviously, I'd love to talk about these. But if you haven't, I would just love to know what you've been reading recently. But with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having an amazing Monday, if that is the day that you're currently watching this. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye.